cities can have astrology charts, right? Like when there's astrology chart for anything. When you start a business, there's an astrology chart. When a city has an astrology chart. When for anything you do, there's a chart for it. And so Toronto, in 1998, Toronto was amalgamated because Toronto used to be, North York, Etobicoke, Scarborough, downtown Toronto, and they're all like separate cities, part of the metropolitan Toronto. And then in 1998, they made it was a mega city. It all became one municipality. And so it gave Toronto a new astrology chart, right? So that's why Toronto, like I remember when I was a kid, nobody cared about Toronto. Like you talk to Americans, I used to go to the States, and everyone's like, what's Toronto? You live in Canada, you guys live in igloos, right? And Toronto is not, no one cared. Now, Toronto, like, everyone's like, Toronto, the six, right? Like I go on Instagram, I see these Americans visiting Toronto, and they'll put hashtag, yeah, I'm in the six, right? So like 1988, Toronto became amalgamated, and ever since then, over the years, Toronto became more in the limelight, right? We had Drake, who's one of the biggest music stars. He's from Toronto. He always talks about Toronto. Him and Rob Ford put Toronto on the map. They did, right? They did. And when all that stuff was going on with Rob Ford, that's when Pluto's in Capricorn right now. Pluto was aligned with because Toronto became amalgamated on New Year's Eve, like right on midnight. Do you guys remember that? I remember when because they were planning it a few years before or a year before, and then they go, okay, January 1st at midnight, 1998, as soon as it's the new year, it's the mega city. So as soon as it became the new year, they're like, Happy New Year, mega city. Do you remember that? No, there's like fireworks, and that was the birth of Toronto as a mega city. And so that was under Capricorn. It was like 13 degrees Capricorn, because January 1st is Capricorn. And so a few years ago, when all that stuff was going on with Rob Ford, Pluto was around the same degree as where it was hitting the chart of Toronto, the sun sign. So that's when, Pluto represents like the underworld and going and revealing all this stuff. So we're finding out like Rob Ford, he's the mayor by day, and at night he's smoking crack with all these gangsters, and you know what I mean? He's a Gemini, by the way. Geminis can do that. They're twins, right? He's a mayor and he's also a crackhead. Right? So yeah, that's what was happening. But while all that stuff was happening, Pluto was conjunct the sun. So while Pluto was conjunct the sun, all this underworld stuff was being revealed. But it was also more people are becoming aware of Toronto too. Like after that whole thing happened with Rob Ford, tourism, like more people were like, oh, what's going on in Toronto? He was on Jimmy Kimmel. Jimmy Kimmel was like, yeah, I love Toronto. And so it's actually kind of a good thing in a way. It depends how you look at it, right? In a way, it kind of sucks because more traffic. So yeah, Toronto's a Capricorn. So if you look at Toronto's a place where what do people come here for to work for? Maybe now a lot of the immigrants coming here are coming because they're buying properties, they're investing in it. But like even before Toronto became Capricorn, it still had the Capricorn energy was coming. It was already building up, right? And so most people that immigrate to Toronto came here to work, came here because there was opportunity. So Toronto's a place where people work hard. It's all about work, career here, right? So that's the Capricorn energy. Toronto also has a lot of Aquarius in their chart too. It's like an Uber Aquarian chart. So there's a Capricorn Aquarian. So that's why Toronto is a place where we have all these different cultures, the most multicultural city in the world, and everyone gets along. I mean, that's very Aquarian. It's like we're all one collective. Aquarian's a collective. It's collective family, collective community, right? So it's a place of like ambition, career, and this collective, like everyone gets along kind of thing. So and you see a lot of like Toronto's very cutting edge too. Like you're seeing a lot of like a lot of things that are very forward, futuristic, like things like Bitcoin, which is a new type of money. They have like a lot of Bitcoin stuff going on in Toronto now, just an example. And so Toronto's very the new Toronto is very forward thinking. But the old Toronto, the old astrology chart for Toronto, not like North York, Scarborough, but just like the original Toronto, is Pisces. So that's why like when you're in the old Toronto, it feels way different than North York, Scarborough, Etobicoke. Like the old Toronto, even though the old Toronto, I guess would this be considered old Toronto or is this East York? Would this be East York? Is this old Toronto? But was this the old Toronto? Yeah. Okay. So old Toronto, like it's next to the lake, Pisces. Pisces rules big bodies of water. And Old Toronto is also like you'll see even now. Like, see, the thing is the old charts, the Pisces energy is still kind of here a little bit, right? Because I think North York was Capricorn too. Like, I think some of the suburbs were Capricorn already, and but Old Toronto is Pisces. So that's why downtown you see more of the artsy people.